Okay, the lady has sung. I can officially welcome everyone and say, welcome. I'm Joel. I am joined by my partner in crime, Tim Thompson, and our special guest, Aaron How do I pronounce your last name? I want to make sure I don't butcher it.
Griesdorn.
Okay, Griesdorn, from Bespoke Digital. Welcome to this week's weekly briefing, which is the 30-minute, take a break, step back, let's jump on Zoom together, and I'll talk about what's going on in the industry this week, what's an issue that we're all processing, what our owner's talking about. And this week is like a follow-up, I'm going to say, Tim, to Revolve, which has been a 12-week accelerator. We've taken a group of owners through this process, like, hey, do we need to pivot? And if so, pivot to what? And when was it? Was it last week that you interviewed Denny from IMAX? When was it?
2 weeks ago.
Okay.
But,
yeah. What was that like? And why did that spur this conversation we're having today?
Yeah. And again, hello, everyone. Good to see your faces. There are many of you actually were part of that conversation. So as we talk about this, I'd love to get your feedback as well as Aaron's here as we talk about that last conversation, because I think that's the one that we all wanted to take off our head, put it back on afterward. But the Revolve process, as in the name, is this thought process of rethinking and pivoting our brains and our mindset to what the current issues are and how to deal with them in different ways. And we often come across a paradox, two things that feel opposing that have to happen, that have to agree and happen at the same time. For example, it feels like this is the time to not spend, but if you don't spend, you don't get ahead. So how do we deal with that in the current context? So we dealt with issues like that over a 6-week period. And then we brought on Denny too, a person you've interviewed before, Joel, in the podcast,
right,
to talk about the current situation and what it's like to be an industry leader. He is the CMO of IMAX, and he's dealing with studios like the folks that went through Revolve. So we just had an open interview with him. And Aaron, you were part of it. You part of the Revolve process, and were one of us, many of us, that were blown away by what Denny talked about.
So Aaron, I'm first of all, do you mind doing us a favor and just saying hello, introduce yourself, tell us, in a sentence or two, what your studio does so we can get to know you. And then we'll, Tim and I have a couple thoughts and want to pick your brain a bit on what the experience has been like as you are considering pivoting and shifting the way you're running your business.
Right. Yeah. My name is Aaron Griesdorn. I'm the owner of Bespoke Digital in New York City, and we've been there doing business in mainly post-production for about 18 years now. And yeah, I think the RevThink's been great, and you guys have really got the wheels turning.
Well, to that end, I think I went back and watched the replay of the conversation with Denny, and I found myself kind of, I don't know, it was very refreshing because, Tim, I don't know if this was your experience. He's like very gracious and kind, but he is so blunt about what it looks like to work with, he calls them agencies, right? You and I might call them studios or production companies. But he's really gracious about creatives. He considers himself a creative. He loves working with the creative. He wants to support the community of studios and agencies. But at the same time, he does not mince words when he talks about what it's like to collaborate and the games that are played and all that sort of stuff.
He did not mince words at all. It was great to interview him because I felt like I was talking to a really good friend that was telling me there's food in my teeth. He just had no issue telling us bluntly, and he said, I love working with small agencies. I give them work to do. I give them work all the time. It's wonderful to work with them. And then sometimes it's so frustrating work with small agencies because they keep trying to prove something to me, and I've already chosen you. Can you just come and collaborate with me? Can we get it over with in a way, all this song and dance? Because I already like you. Let's make something happen. So as a CMO and a creative person, he specifically understands the people he's working with and wants to get momentum started. And that whole, I think that process alone made a lot of business owners think, oh, pick me right now. Let me get involved, right? And Aaron, I asked them directly of, hey, what would it take for one of these business owners to get started right now working with you? What was your takeaway? Did you feel motivated by Denny and his direct?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, he gave a lot of great advice, and really just going into a pitch and being yourself and trying to relate to a person, and not being overly pitchy, I guess. And that was a huge takeaway. And actually, it's something that I've never been a very good pitch person. So I think that made me feel a little bit more comfortable, because yeah, that's something I can really tap into going forward.
I don't know if you listen to the podcast, but he uses this word, the kabuki, which is a great term for, like, can we just cut the kabuki and get down to business, which I think is very endearing. But that leads me to this question, Aaron, because when you and I were yesterday processing some things inside Jumpstart, right, where we've been going through that process as well, I heard you talk about what I would just call maybe a new offering, right? Like, oh, my business has primarily been doing these things, but we're going to evolve, we're going to shift. I want to start also offering these things. And it triggered this memory of when inside Revolve, do you remember the exercise when we said, let's list all of the different services that we have, we put them in this Venn diagram, and then we looked at these interesting intersections where we said, wow, how could I merge this service or expertise with this service or expertise to create something new? And I'm just curious, what is the shift or pivot that you're considering? And is it connected to that exercise?
Yeah, it's definitely connected to that exercise, and a number of others too, and just rethinking how we can work with clients. Working in post-production, it's been a little bit difficult to see our future. It just gets a little bit trickier and a little bit trickier with every year. But I think, we talked a lot about, the value pyramid and the strategy level, and trying to work with clients on that level. And we were just trying to figure out, how can we add services to work and better serve some of our clients. And yeah, we've been adding CGI and looking to pivot in that direction. And yeah, it's been working good so far. Yeah.
So I'm curious.
Here's that exercise, Joel,
just
for reference. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. So you see how you took a service and said, oh, this could become a new strategy. And that might prompt a series of questions that you might start asking your clients, like, what is it you're trying to accomplish? Who's your audience, right? What's your message? All these kinds of things. Mm-hmm. I am kind of curious. In the past, Aaron, I would say what I heard you saying about post-production, and I'm sort of reading between the lines, I'm inferring something you said there, was what I heard you saying was, over the years, we tend to get more and more commoditized.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that what I heard you say?
Exactly.
And how so? Just meaning, like, yeah, every year clients come to us with sort of smaller budgets and they just expect more, and everything is a bit more like competing based on price, and they don't really appreciate the expertise. That's that thing we call ephemeralization, which is that big weird word that Buckminster Fuller invented. But has that been your experience?
It's absolutely been our experience. And yeah, so then we're just thinking of how do we evolve, and how do we look at the next 5-10 years of business.
So Tim, was he in your breakout group when you guys did that exercise?
That's quite, Aaron, were you in mine when we?
I was. Yeah.
Because we did it right. Joel's group didn't do it right.
Yeah,
no, I'm just
you guys
kidding.
did a better job. Well, actually, I'm going to be totally honest. Do you remember this, Aaron? In your group, I think Linda Decker was there, and one of her services was like brand systems, I think. And Linda put down that down as a service, and then somebody else had a service called motion design. And then the thought was, oh, how could motion design and brand systems combine? Yeah, go to your slide, Tim.
Is it
Go down a couple more.
Oh, there it is. Tim's. There we go.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, motion design and brand systems. How could that create a new expertise or a new strategy called rollout? And for me personally, I just was like, wow, what a cool idea. And I'm now like, Tim, I'm now using this with all of the owners I'm working with, of asking the question, rather than how can we just tack on another service that supposedly the market needs? How do we create a new expertise, some sort of a strategy, so that we can go to someone like Denny and be like, Denny, I got something really interesting I want to talk to you about, because someone like him, I think, is going to listen and give us an ear and say, that's interesting. Let's do it.
Yeah, if I were honest, I was trying to get, because the thought process of once you discovered the strategy, how do you engage a client to help them recognize you have that capability? And if you say the words, pick me, choose me, I can do that, what about me? They're not going to listen to you, because you are almost disqualifying yourself by not approaching this in a strategic way. So by asking questions, you can get them to realize you have this capability. So talking with Denny, I was working through that question asking. How do I get Denny down to the root of what his needs are? By having a normal conversation with him, asking questions, being curious, walking through that process, and hearing more and more of what he's looking for. And now my ears are perked up and I'm thinking, oh, I know how to solve that problem. Oh, I have an expertise that you are looking for. Here, let me talk strategically about that. So not saying hire me as a motion design company, but saying, hey, it sounds like you have a rollout plan, and maybe my rollout strategy that I'm working on would be a better fit for you.
So Aaron, I'm curious, when you did this exercise, was there a service that you combined into something that led you to say CGI or whatever it is that you're calling it?
I think at the time I was still trying to process it all, but it actually probably came together after the fact. And even in the last week, where I got the chance to do what you just said with a client, where they kind of, they had come to us asking for what we typically do for them in post-production, but they did hint at another service with some CGI needs, and I rolled it all together in a pitch to them, and yeah, it was.
How did that conversation go, if you don't mind me asking?
They were surprised and very interested, and very open to it. And we did make a pitch and we didn't win, but they did say that it's very good that, we know that you do this now, because going forward, you're going to be on our radar for this sort of thing. And this type of work we're going to have more and more of it. So it's really great to know.
That's super cool. Yeah, that's super interesting. I'm excited, because I'm even thinking of I think week after next, I'm bringing in a CEO of an AR company to talk about augmented reality. Anyways, it's a software and technology thing that I said, hey, if I brought a bunch of studio and production company owners in to understand your product, could you teach us how to take what we do, put it on your platform and make money with it? He's like, yeah, absolutely. That's what we do. I'm like, great. Here's a whole other service category that we can merge, right? Maybe you can merge it with CGI or live action or photography or whatever it is, and create a new category that solves a problem for your clients in a new way. I don't know. I'm just kind of excited about this, because I know at this time we're all asking this question, like, should we just deal with this crappy economy and how slow things are, or should we pivot? And if so, pivot to what? So Tim, what's your thoughts? I see your wheels.
I even, hearing the conversation yesterday, the inner circle conversation you had yesterday about with the
LED panels and
LED panel group,
all that.
And to listen to the inner circle group talking about the thought of investing and kind of the reality investing. It's not that it's not an interesting idea or possible, but recognizing that it's money in to get money out, specifically with that technology at this moment. I love the fact that people were dealing with the reality of a pivot and understanding, is it worth it or not? Because you can take something that seems like hot in the moment and really great and not really know what the reality was. But in that case, there was people talking honestly about their experiences in launching these services and the investment it takes to get there and what's necessary. And for some, it's a very smart pivot. And for others, it's not smart for them at this time. And I think that's what the challenge of the pivot is to find your one unique calling. And so I like the idea of running a personal audit, knowing what your strengths are, and working with Aaron recently just to kind of walk through, he is a thriving business. It's grown and pivoted itself over the years and he recognized it. But now many, many years into business, wants to ask new questions. And Aaron, that's what you're doing. Your people are changing, your services are changing, your offering is changing. You're embracing it. Good for you. That's already hard enough work.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been there's a lot on our plates for the next couple of months for sure. And everything we've learned from you guys, we're implementing almost in real time. So it's definitely busy over here.
Yeah, he's keeping us busy too. He's
Right.
like, Tim, go. I'm like, okay, here we go. 3 things at once. We're juggling a lot of balls right now. It's pretty cool.
Well, I'm curious, Aaron, is this new category, this new offering, something that you see potentially developing into something that's even more valuable, aka higher prices and so forth?
Absolutely. I think this was kind of our thinking was that if we become experts in these emerging technologies, and the clients are really looking for that right now. They're looking for someone who knows how to, like you said, implement the augmented reality with Apple's headsets coming out and everything. It's going to change the way we use the internet. And so, yeah, I think it really gives us an opportunity to kind of jump and jumpstart our whole thinking around going from post-production to selling strategy and creative.
I just realized, Tim, I should do everyone a favor here. So for those of you that are in Confab, this is this one down here on June 29th is when we're going to talk about augmented reality is just a storytelling tool. I thought that was a pretty good title. I don't know about you.
That's a great title.
Right. But yeah, it is exciting to think about, oh yeah, there are some new technologies and it's not about the technology, but when you think of it, like I'm guessing with you, Aaron, it's always been about storytelling and helping your clients solve problems by communicating stories, ideas, concepts, and so forth. Then AR, VR, all these things just become extensions of what you've always done, but maybe providing new forms of value.
Hey, Joel, listen to these quotes that Philippe grabbed from the Denny 2 conversation. This is getting to the root of some of that. I love how the whole discussion was really about be yourself, which is perfect, right? Don't try to be something that you're not. Here's a quote. If you have nothing in common with somebody, share your passion. That separates you already immediately from the pack. Pitch people, not projects. That's an amazing, perfect, and good reminder of a cliche. But this last one also is like replace presentations with conversations. And I think that's what we're getting into in that exercise we were doing is this is like a pre-meeting that you have to have yourself to prime yourself of what good questions might be to start conversations. There's something when we're in a panic that we believe we're supposed to come to the answer and it's our job to come to the answer. So we get so nervous and we study up. If I'm ever asked a question, I'll know the answer. And you know what happens when you chase those answers? You kill the conversation. Mm-hmm. They ask something, you answer it. Well, that's the end of that. And then you have to hope that they like your answer. But if you pursue the questions, then you're opening up more and more boxes. There's greater opportunity of discovery or higher value, or find something that's more fitting for you. If you can learn how to keep it going by discovering the questions, discover the more questions. What are they really asking? Asking for clarification. And that relationship of within that conversation is presenting to the person, right? So the whole idea of replace presentations with conversations is a perfect summary of what Denny was having us to consider in his presentation.
Aaron, did any one of those also grab you?
Yeah, I mean exactly what you said. Replace with conversation, and that's what that's definitely I mean, at least how I approach it when I have had to pitch and do meet with clients, I just try to keep it as natural as possible.
There's others of you who were part of that meeting or all of Revolve. We're actually kind of curious what your takeaway was, or any other items or things you've been processing through this pivot as the big picture, because some of you have been with us now for probably 6 weeks of the class, 2 extra weeks there, so 8 weeks total. And I know we've challenged many of you, sometimes challenging you just because we gave you homework that was hard to understand, but sometimes challenging you because we gave you homework that you didn't want to do because you knew how to tell yourself the truth. So I'm curious.
I see Philip laughing. He's
Yeah, I
like,
know.
yeah, exactly. Well, I know I'm seeing Linda. By the way, Linda, sorry I wasn't able to, you weren't able to join us last night, but I know you're considering a pivot. Philip, are you also considering any kind of a pivot? Either the two of you?
Well, for me, it's been about like trying to sell in a better way, and I don't know, be more make more a conversation when we talk, and well, it's been good so far.
Good.
Do you have a when you did your Venn diagram and you had that overlap, was there something interesting there of what if I combine this and this to create something new?
Right. Well, for me, it's like this seems like solid enough. It's more about like how do I tell the story to sell it well.
Which was the first week of Revolve. We talked about the need to tell the story, we call it the signal and the noise, right? How do we get through this crazy desperate moment where everyone's looking for work? What makes you different? And telling the story that of who you are or what you do is a really clear need. Yeah. It's awesome.
So it's about like being human and like really talking to the people in front of you instead of like think about well, what you've learned in the past, or what, well, it's trying to make a good mix of everything, So for me, it's been about like being more confident and trusting myself that I can do it, and doing it like over and over until I get good.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Philip. It's really good to hear from you. That conversation, right? I mean, it's Aaron, yeah, I know you felt it, right? Because as we were preparing for this, you were like, yeah, I'm still trying to kind of find the words and find my comfort and so forth. And I will just say this, something that one of my mentors taught me back in the day was this idea. He said, Joel, the only thing that you have to sell is confidence. And when I first heard that, I thought, that's ridiculous. I sell visual effects and animation and yada, yada, yada. And then as the years played out, I realized, oh yeah, you're right. And so I would encourage, you, Philip, also Aaron, it's like, as you explore this new offering, this, whatever this pivot is, don't forget to remind yourself, hey, this is what makes me feel confident. And when I can go into a meeting, if I do these things, if I'm prepared, whatever it is that makes me relax, whatever, it's like, you're going to jump into a conversation much more likely than go into that presentation mode that Denny talked about. And that's what I kind of heard Philip saying. But Tim, we only got like 5 minutes left.
Yeah, I'm actually curious, Aaron, when you're thinking about pivoting, what lessons have you learned so far that you give others? Maybe like mistakes that you would have them avoid, or encouragement that kind of help push you to understand where to pivot to.
Well, I think the trickiest part of pivoting is really, like we had talked about yesterday too, is just convincing the client that you can do it. And Joel gave some really great advice and saying that just kind of keep the conversation going, right? That's what you said, because they're going to want to see work, and perhaps maybe we can pitch the work, or we can develop something in-house and keep them interested. And this is actually exactly, I took that advice and immediately today was already running with it on that project I was talking about earlier. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah, I think that's the trickiest part of pivoting, is just convincing the clients that you can now do this as well as that.
And then when you were deciding what direction to go, what's the major factor that you chose? Was it money? Simply like we can make a lot of money do this, or I'm going to guess the answer to that is no, because it's often not for the creative person to just choose money. But what are kind of the one or two major factors that you were considering when you chose the new direction?
I think for us in CGI, it's just like that anything was possible, and we actually the biggest factor was that in post-production, our work and our portfolio is always representative of more so of our relationships, whereas CGI really allows us to have our own artistic aesthetic or develop a portfolio of our own and our own artistic expression. Whereas in the past, I've never really had that, and it's really hard to sell to clients when you're selling something that you've just been given. Whereas it's with CGI now we can create something and show them this is what we think, this is our vision.
That's a really good point. That absolutely makes sense, because post-production, you're often given the task with a relationship that you have, and selling is relationship building. But there is something in CGI where you can kind of prove your own skill, and now you can separate yourself. You already have the relationships, but now you can separate yourself even further by showing them a talent or a skill that goes even further. So your biggest investments are going to be creative investments to make that new product happen. Oh, that's cool. That's really great.
Yeah, and Aaron, thank you for the reminder. Let's extend that to everyone here and just say, like, give everyone permission when you're pivoting, right? What Aaron was saying was, we don't really have the portfolio to back up this new offering or this new claim. So what do? My encouragement was, you just keep the conversation going. You ask better questions. And sometimes you sort of, I don't know, I'm trying to think of the right word here, Aaron, like you fudge it a little bit. Like you say, hey, I can't show you that because of this excuse or this reason or so forth. But what I can show you is, right, let's hop on a call and talk more about that. And let's discuss what's possible. And before you know it, the conversation isn't about, oh, have you done this before? It's what is possible. What are we going to go do? Because guess what? Innovation is we're going to go do something that's new and hasn't been done before. So how can I show you if what we've done for others? Like, we're going to create something new, and that's what's cool and exciting. So I'm hoping, Aaron, that continues to evolve, and you can just keep that conversation going with them.
Yeah, no, it was great. It was great advice, and I hope it keeps going too, because there's some really fun projects that can come from it.
I think a good wrap up here is whoever is on their iPhone that posted this quote from Denny is a good wrap up even for the bigger conversation. When talking about projects, Denny says, the why stays the same, but the how and what is what evolves. Mm-hmm. But I'd also say with your business and your creative career, it feels the same way, right? Listen, the why you got in this business and why you do what you do, that's your calling, that's your purpose. But how and what you do also has to evolve over time. Technology changes, needs change, markets change. So keep that in mind, as the heart of the matter is your why is going to stay the same, but your how and what will change. And when you're considering a pivot, don't go beyond your why. It won't match. It'll be very difficult. And it might feel inspired in the moment, but when you're chasing dollars and not your heart, it's a very, very big struggle.
Good advice. Good advice. That's why I've encouraged several people who've like, oh, we're going to go and buy our building. I'm like, really? Is being in the real estate business part of your why? It can lead to messes. So everyone here, please give Aaron a shout out and say thank you for joining us today, letting us put you in the hot seat and ask you some questions. It's been fun having you. So Tim, tell everyone how they can jump into the community if they're not already a member.
Yeah, that's great. If you're part of Revolve, I know we owe you kind of a last hurrah. The one we had kind of faded away, so we owe you some graduation. So keep yourself looking at the community, looking in the accelerator in the chat room, and we'll get something to you soon. If you are interested in knowing more about, and you don't know, to join the community, join us at revthink.com/community. Be part of this conversation as it continues over there and find out more details. And of course, Joel and I recorded a podcast just this morning, 2 more in the can. So if you're subscribed or not subscribed to the RevThinking Podcast, subscribe now. There's more good stuff coming. there's some amazing Rev thoughts flowing out of these brains. Like
Yeah.
we'll have to leave it for the surprise, I guess.
Yeah. If you're not already sick of us, you can. There's more to come. There's more to come. All right. Thanks again, Aaron, and good luck, and keep us posted on all your progress.
Thank
We'll
you
talk to you
guys.
soon,
Thanks so
Aaron.
much. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.